Good morning. Let's see. How does that look? X-rated. This is my blog spot. X-rated. That's how you spell it. XRATTED.blogspot.com. All of my novels, at least this novel, three-quarters of this novel, is on my that blog spot. And let's see. Hey, Rhonda. Can you read this? Can you see this? We are love seed, our life furnishing the condition in which our soul may grow, flourish, and give the best fruit to love's nature. Our life in co-creation. Shangri-La remix sample. This is my first The small mind in the box sees love's beauty as plagiarism. The visionary sees it as divine art in the first person. Saint Germain. Do you know who Saint Germain is? I will be proud to be remembered as a cut and paste man, James Joyce. You know, one of my publisher friends said that my writings reminded him of James Joyce on acid. Can you read that? Saint Germain is a ascended master who is incarnate, meaning in body, just like Jesus Christ, just like Vishnu, just like Buddha. Right? These are all souls, old souls, that serve love's co-creation. Pluggy Boom Boom was my my childhood nickname because I kept making electrical devices that blew up in the basement. I kept making time machines until the FCC came and got me, along with the AEC. A friend of mine wrote this book. If you were to and there's his Fraser Sherman. This is he actually gets the thing put in a book. I just kind of put it online. And there I am. So go online, X-rated blogspot.com, XRATTED. That's why I showed the front page. That's how it's spelled. And I have a novel, which is about almost 400 pages. The last third I did not include with what I put up online. So I have about 260 pages online. And they're in cuts, like chapters, but they're called cuts. They're like, you can read them separately, or you can read them, all together. You can read the last one first and move you can throw a dart at it and read the third cut first. You can read it any which way. It's shamanic. It's energetic. It's a ceremony. Yep. And the other thing, Ron, you should go back is because doing this twice a day is difficult for me because I don't always have access to the internet. And, it gets more and more limited. And, when I go back to the deep green, it'll be really limited. But I have almost 500 shows on my channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Alba. And every one of them, I start off a half an hour before I do this, and I go into state and I do a shamanic ceremony, and I energize every program with this energetics, right? And every one of these has a theme that is as relevant today as it was when I made it. And it's all, I started doing this in May, and you know, so I would suggest you guys go back, and I see that you guys kind of communicate, whoops, with yourselves, just like you communicate with me on my Gmail. And so I would go and look at my shows, and it's like having a book club. Go watch the shows, and then talk about how you feel about them. Go read the live chats that you did, and then make comments to each other that way. And from that frame, you can build something in your own community. So, Rhonda, where do you live? What's your community like? Let's hear about you. Hey, Twitch, where do you live, Rhonda? You know, and what do you do there? And how do you relate to your community? How do you interact with it? Like today, I got up at 6 in the morning, had to go downtown, and I had to go to 3 more doctors. I'm trying to get a pair of orthopedic shoes, that cost $600-700, and I have to see 20 doctors and get them all to sign 40 different pieces of paper, and then I have to do it, not them. And it's like unbelievable. And still they're going, oh, we need a few more people to sign, and I got everyone's phone number and fax number so they could do it without having me to drive all over God's creation to do this. So, I kind of understand how bureaucracy works. And, so I read everyone's palm so they shamanically, oh, Al's interesting. I'm like, I'll go that extra mile for him, right? And and I had them, get me a pair of orthopedic shoes last year. And these are worn out. So the good thing is, I went to all these doctors and they checked me out. I'm actually in pretty amazing shape. They're always amazed on how, my blood sugar is, I used to be almost 500 pounds. Now I'm down to 230. I used to have blood pressure, up around 160 over, 80, 90, 100. And now it was the last 2 times they've done my blood pressure, it's been below 100 over 60, and it keeps going down. And my blood sugar, which used to be up around 200, is now constantly at 90. And my average 4-month blood sugar used to be around 7, 8, is now at 6.2. And my endocrinologist says, your pancreas isn't even there yet. It's still working. My eye doctor said, this process that we do every 5 months to your eyes, you know, um, it's supposed to just slow down your blindness. Your eyes are getting better. How, they're all going, how is this being done? What other medicines are you taking? And basically, it's my intention, prayer, and meditation that are doing this. My visualization of myself being better and better, meaning I have this thing called Charcot legs. That means the little bones in my ankles that connects my foot to my ankle bone kind of dissolved, right? So the only thing holding my foot to my leg is my muscle and my tendons and my bone density, which has become stronger, and the neuropathy I have, that shouldn't happen, and the muscles in my leg are they have this test that tests the tensality or the tensile strength, tensile, can't say it with 4 teeth, the strength of the muscles and the tendons to hold my foot on my leg. And it's getting stronger, and with neuropathy it should be getting dissolving, right? To point. So Yeah, exactly. You don't get angry at people. I mean, you just have to move forward and do the best you can. As to the coworkers, family, friends. So, Rhonda, what do you do? What's your community like? Where do you live? Do you live in a big town? You live in a rural town? You live in a big city? I just watched a really interesting movie made in the 40s about racial dynamics in the South. Like when, if you're a black guy, you could be just taken off the street and hung up on a tree and set fire, you know, for no real reason at all. And the town dynamics of it. It was really, it was called The Man in the Sand. And it was made by Metro Goldwyn Mayer, whoops, in the, late 40s, early 50s. It was quite interesting. Rural, rural where? South, north, east, west. Where do you live? What's the biggest city nearby? And what is the nearest town and how big is it? And what is the level of opiate addiction? And what is the mean income? Are you living in a rural poverty zone? Like I live in this part of Texas where I live in right in the middle of a 200 square mile zone of Appalachian poverty. I mean, worse than what it was during the Depression, because they had the Great Society come in and rip whatever they had apart. And their schools that used to be relatively, at least teach them how to read, write, read and write and arithmetic. They don't even do that anymore. And everyone's on food stamps, and all they eat is macaroni and cheese. So they're obese and starving to death. I mean, the babies have extended tummies. So is your neighborhood that bad? And then the other place I come and visit that I used to live in, I used to have a place, is a town called Roanoke, Virginia. And it's quite an interesting city because it's not like Lynchburg or Lexington or Bedford or even Blacksburg, which is where tech is. All those towns, we have lost most of our industry. Yeah. So you have no real jobs there. And that's kind of, Roanoke is that exactly thing. This town in the 19th century was the hub of transportation, innovation, and, you know, industrial manufacturing. And now it's been taken over by a large medical HMO, which I have to come here. I mean, one of the good things, it's got everything, right? So I can go and get a lot of things taken care of within their construct. And I have no money. I have zip. I had to get rid of, I don't own anything, have anything. And it's a level of freedom that only saints and avatars, not avatars, ascended masters can have. I was away from Chicago. Oh, you're in Milwaukee. So, boy, it's been cold up there. So, not only does no one have any money or have a job, you're freezing to death up there. It's only going to get colder. And then the mud flood's coming, and you'll be covered by about 100 feet of mud, and then it'll freeze, you know? You got to get up in the, where I'm both places where I hang out, three places I hang out are like up in the mountains. The lowest place I'm in is 1,800 feet above sea level. The others are, up in the 2,800, 3,200 feet neck of the woods. So, when the big water floods, I'll have beachfront property. But the thing about my neighbors, I've been in all of these places about 20 years, and I got to know them all, and I talk and share and showed them how to go back to gardening and how to, get off the grid and get off the food stamps and get off. I mean, they still get food stamps, but, they at least eating some vegetables now. But we are being, and so today I kind of talked to all of the usual suspects, the mayor, the county supervisor, the city supervisor, the administrator of the county education, and because they're all in one building and it's kind of near the hospital I had to go to. So I went there, and then there's a place I know the guy has a really nice breakfast, had breakfast there, and that's where these people kind of hang out for breakfast. You hit them sometime between 8 and 10. You can meet all these guys there. So, everybody, oh yeah, let's have breakfast, right? So they kind of bought me breakfast, and they slip me a few dollars because I give them these white papers. And if you go back on my channels, just like today, I showed you the first beginning of that novel. I give them white papers, about the statistical dynamics of the neighborhood, what's going on, who's doing what, where's things going, what are the political potentials, where can you make a difference. And they love that because they slip it into their speeches and they look like they're really knowledgeable and know something, right? But they don't do anything because they take the envelope. We have the best legislators money can buy. There isn't a single legislature from national, state, to regional, to community, even your little town there, near Chicago, of a few hundred or thousand that has a city council and maybe a mayor or some kind of administrative body. They're taking an envelope. Every single politician takes an envelope and is on somebody's string, not yours. They're not representing you. And that's why we are in the crust we're in. But that's kind of where we have been. So I'm looking at, right at the front door of this library, the guys from the Watchtower kind of hang out. The Bible, everything you wanted to know. Why examine the Bible? Are your failures with the Bible? This unique work is by the most widely distributed book in history. People who all cultures have found its message to be a source of comfort and hope. And its advice to the particular, basically, this is called propaganda. This is put out by Watchtower. They just want your check in the mail. Virtually, like here in Roanoke, there's 600 churches, individual churches in this valley, and only 2 do anything to help the people. And there are 40 different nonprofits, religious nonprofits that say that they're there to help. Their whole, there's TAP and Goodwill, and TAP is Total Action Plan, HAT, Homeless Action Team, LEAP, that's the guy supposed to feed the homeless, the Mission, the United Way, Salvation Army. The only of those organizations that tries within its limited scope help folks. The rest just pay themselves the money. I used to work for the Mission as a shrink and a counselor, a saint. And I would get guys and girls off drugs and alcohol and tobacco, get them dried out, get them a job, and get them out of the Mission. And I was gotten rid of because the guy who owned the place at the time, a family who set it up as a total scam, he said, hey, we don't want these people to get better. We want them to stay here because it costs us $2,800 to feed and house them a year. And our grants make us $50,000 per head. And they had 500 heads there. They didn't want to get rid of a single one. And I stayed in here at Roanoke because it is the microcosm of America. It really is. And it has all the potential parts. So I talked to all these guys and I said, listen, guys, you have all the aspects. You've read all my white papers, and more than half of them actually have read them. And for the political system to work, you have to have the population, the citizen, the resident, the person who, have skin in the game, meaning they have to be in the process. Well, all always goes good, as my teacher would say, as my sensei would say, all things are as they should be. My ascended master, sensei, Akasha K, and if you read my novel at xratted.blogspot, you will read about my interactions and the worst and best day of my life, which was 18 years before 9/11. Right? It was on September 11th in 1988, or thereabouts. Anyway, so and you can go on to get a hold of me at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And why don't you, give a thumbs up, become part of the cadre, because there's, close to 40,000 people who watch this, but we only have about, you know, 300 or so on the cadre, the subscribers. I hate using the word subscriber. It really is, I find, demeaning. But cadre is a better thing. And those who communicate on the live chat, you're the chorus. And those of you who go into state, well, you're the shock troops of love's co-creation. So I was talking to one of the, so all the usual suspects eat at this place downtown. Not just the Republicans and Democrats, but the what do they call those people? Starts with a P, progressives. I used to like that word, not anymore. Liberals. I used to like that word, not anymore. You know what a liberal is? Someone who is racist and feels guilty about it. That's what a liberal is. Right? And you know what a conservative is? Well, there aren't any. They're all, psychotic. And that has been our public and political dynamic since back to Mesopotamia, before Egypt and Samaria and Babylon. All of those political entities were psychotic, and we are the same entity. You know, we are run by the hidden hand, the powers that shouldn't be, and the sock puppets. The sock puppets are all of our legislators, the guys who take the envelope. We have the best legislator money can buy. And the only way, so people will go, oh, we have to have a revolution. The only revolution is every one of us have to be empathetic to all our relations, meaning everybody, right? And in every day and every way, we take the piece of the earth and we make it stronger by our example, not by doing some stupid political march or movement or anything. I mean, sometimes you need to do that, but most times all you need to do is do what I'm doing, and that's talk up. Do some homework, read some stuff, open up your eyes, suspend your disbelief, get off, throw the TV out the window, you know. The only time I go on the internet is to study about what I'm going to talk to you guys about and to talk to you guys. Otherwise, I read books, I write, I have, I go through, I really love the Dollar Tree because they have these great composition books, right, that are bound, meaning the pages don't come out, they're bound. And they're $1 a piece. And I go through one of these every 2 or 3 weeks. I write. See, here's my new one. And the book you guys should really go look at is The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shmora Zuboff. And that's ShoshuaZ, her last name Zuboff. And Democracy Now, which is just, it's okay, but it's got its own agenda, just like everything else. But they do have some pretty interesting people in. And, the there's one show that I really love on the internet that, is almost, agenda free is Jimmy Dore, And, let's see. Had some tea with you in state last night. That's good. Check your email when you get a chance. Beloved humble Al. I'll be sending you a little something. I love that, Mr. Jagan. Yep. Love and help. Okay. But the best thing everyone can do is what I do, and that is, lead by example, and I get involved in my little town, and I don't try and do anything other than to talk to everybody about, so what are you really doing, and see what they're really doing. Oh, like, so all the pastors, I go and talk to them, and I'm like their rabbi, meaning I tell them, what hypocrites they are, and why don't they, they have all the, I mean, there's 20 churches in our valley that have assets over $100 million, and they don't do anything to help anyone but themselves and the richest people in their church. That's it. Where's the point, and then there are a lot of churches that are like done out of people's garage, and they just want to have the tax, free, and have their little thing on the internet, and people send them money. So that's, I'm all for that, But it's the big ones that have a ton of money that say they're there to help people. That's the one that is a little irksome, right? And that's, there's maybe 200 of the 600 churches in our valley, 200 of them fit into that category, right? And there's two that actually try and help. The Catholic Church, the big Catholic Church downtown, and the Salvation Army. Salvation Army is kind of limited by a lot of things, but the person who runs it is really, truly amazing. And, as long as she's here, she'll keep trying to do truly amazing things. But problem with that is in about a year or two or somewhere, the higher ups will move her someplace else, just like she was moved here. And whatever momentum she might have built here, some other sock puppet will come in, and it'll just go back to being the same boring thing it was before she showed up. But it still, when it was that, still did better than anything else. Anyway, boop, 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 boop. So, what I really love is you guys go read my novels and then come back to the live chats with, like, get one of these composition books and let my novels twig your brain into some, I have to need to ask Sensei Alba, because pretty much we've hit a little static cling, glass ceiling of that. You guys watch me, I tell you stories, you kind of respond to that. We go into state, you kind of see things, you get a really amazing rush and a good feeling from that. But then, you hang up and go back to your life, and it's, kind of, and it's hard not to be, mesmerized by the illusion material world that we live in. And, here it's pretty much Christian, but we have, Roanoke is such a cosmopolitan place. We have 2 Sikh temples, and those aren't Muslims. Those are guys with turbans on their head, right, and beards. And we have about, I don't know how many Muslim mosques, a lot, and Jewish. We have a lot of everybody, right, and every flavor Christian you can think of. Not only different American Christians, but lots of Asian Christians and African Christians. It's really, and that's why this is an interesting town. But because the Chamber of Commerce, we have 2, we just don't have one, we have 2 Chamber of Commerces that are milking this town dry. And at a certain point, and they've moved everything that made a commerce that the public actually benefited from, which was transportation, manufacturing, and innovation, and we have none of that. And what we have is hipsterism, and breweries, and tourism, and tourism is terrorism. That was one of the reasons why we had the Vietnam War. We had 4 reasons why we had the war in Vietnam, because it was a continuation of the war, of the balkanization of Asia between Japan, China, Korea, and Thailand, and Cambodia, and Vietnam, and the Philippines and a few other players. And we're still having that. And that's where our next really big hot war is going to be. But you have to realize Russia and Europe spend 15% of what the United States spends on the military, right? Russia and Europe together spend only 15% of their combined, spending on the military. It's just 15% of what America spends every year, right? And Japan, China, and the rest of Asia, what they combined spend on the military is a tenth, between 7% and 10% of what America. So you put those together, it's under 20%. So the whole world combined spends less than 20% of what the United States spends on the military. I mean, China has one aircraft carrier. That's it. They got another one in the pipeline. And they're like a tenth of the size of the Nimitz class, right? And we have something on the order of 18 of those. And we're starting to build now the Gerald Ford class, which is almost twice as big as the Nimitz class. And the Nimitz class has a couple of nuclear reactors that make maybe, I don't know, 60 kilowatts or megawatts of electricity. The Gerald Ford it's going to have super duper reactors on board that are going to make 600, you know, it could run, one of the Gerald Ford class things could run New York City. And so it, instead of having steam catapults, it's going to have, you know, electromagnetic kind of things, which will be a lot simpler, solid state, and be able to shoot more aircraft off the deck. And so the aircraft carrier will be able to carry about 40 more airplanes. It'll be able to carry, like right now, the Chinese carrier can carry 22 aircraft. A Nimitz carries about 180. A Gerald Ford is going to carry close to 400 aircraft of sixth generation. The Chinese jets are like, technology from the 50s. So it's like a joke. And so the new destroyers and the new cruisers and the new aircraft carriers are all going to have electric capabilities to have railgun, meaning shooting projectiles from the barrel to its target at Mach 10. It won't even have an explosive, just a kinetic force. It'll be a depleted uranium in that, and before that projectile gets to its target, it will, be blown up or disintegrated into thousands of little chunks. That'll be, a tenth of a mile in diameter, and anything within that tenth of a mile diameter will be chewed into little bits, because each one of those little bits will be going at about, Mach 8, which is like 35,000 miles a minute. It's like, and so it's a joke. We have military hegemony, and then all of that money, a good half of it, like the day before 9/11, Rumsfeld got on the stage and said, I'm just telling you this, but the Defense Department this year has misplaced over $2.3 trillion with a T. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. He only said this because the people at the Washington Post and New York Times are about to splash a big story. So he wanted to get in front of it. And he knew 9/11 was coming. So he didn't want anything to get in the way of that. And he sent all of the people, the bean counters, who had all the floppy disks and all the files on where that money went, and sent them to that room that the alleged airplane flew into. The 40 or 60 people who died at the Pentagon were all the people who knew where that money was and what it was spent on, and they were investigating it. And they all died, and all their floppy disks and paperwork got burnt up. But there was no airplane found there. Go to architects and engineers for 9/11 truth, and those guys are really when the when the Cheney Bush administration produced its 9/11 report. It used popular science as its the go-to scientists, not NASA, not any of the, NTSB, none of the. I mean, when I was a fireman, every accident ever, I was, looked at to scrape people off the road, etc. There was an investigation of what happened. And no one investigated what happened. They just took, oh yeah, it was, Bin Laden airplane hit World Trade Center. What about Building 7? Nothing hit it, but it came down, at the rate of gravity. Most buildings wouldn't fall that way unless they were, done on purpose, controlled demolition. And you talk about this, oh, you're a conspiracy theory. And that has been woven into the urban legend. If you talk with an urban conspiracy, then you must be nuts. You're wearing a tinfoil hat. And that's where the other day I read, again, that book by that woman, Age of Surveillance Capitalism. So you have to do a little homework, This isn't, even though, I put down the disclaimer, this is just for entertainment's sake, and, shush the kids out of the room, and sit down and have a nice libation, because you're probably going to need a libation if you really want to be a conscious soul. If you really want to, expand your consciousness into your God-given free will, then, and that's the thing. See, end of times ain't coming anytime soon. Anytime soon. You want to see a really bad time? Go look at the 900 years between, the Council of Nicaea and 1610. No end of times here. Yep. And all those morons who, oh, I'm going to be zipped up. I'm a born-again Christian, and Jesus is, I'm going to be one of the 10,000 chosen. The rest of you are going to hell. Sorry, honey bun. Never going to happen. Unless we start treating each other with love's co-creation, all we're going to have is another 900 years of the Dark Ages. Because before that, back in the day, Lemuria, Atlantis, hear that crying? That's what everyone's like, That's what the world is going to sound like. But nothing's going to change. Everyone's still going to... Yep, that's what it's going to sound like. Just like that. That's going to be, our politicians are going to be screaming like that. Yep, that's going to be Donald Trump, And poor Donnie. I love Donnie because he's such a sock puppet. And what's great, there's this thing within the dynamics of humanity, the unexpected consequence, right? So back in the day, after the Civil War, when slaves were supposed to be free, we had Jim Crow, right? And we had segregation. But the powers that shouldn't be didn't realize by doing that, they would, see that little kid? No, right? Why is he saying no? Because his parent isn't being a parent. His parent is not being a good example. His parent isn't, his parent is saying, do what I say, not what I do. And the kid at 2 realizes the hypocrisy of his parent, right? So he's going to say, start questioning everything. He's going to get the backside of the hand without any real repomage, meaning understanding of what's really going on. So by the time he's 3, he's well, okay, fine. I'm going to be just like mom and dad. I'm going to be a jerk, a The worst person imaginable, and I'm going to get what I want by screaming, yelling, and punching people. Right? And that's what we are trending our children to be, right? And very few people lead by example, you know. And at this library, I see another reason I come here is nice computers, good Wi-Fi, got a coffee shop. I can get a nice little morsel for something I can afford, and it's like my social laboratory. There's always maybe 40 to 200 people milling around this place, and they represent every kind of sock puppet you can imagine. And I can just observe, and then I can, have a little conversation, take notes. And I can gauge what's going on the planet by just this library, you know? And if you guys want to know what's going on, if you want to really make a difference in the world, these are the things you're going to have to kind of do. If you sign on to be part of the cadre here, I am your sensei Al Bob, and I'm trying to help you lead by example for you to be a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. Now, I don't have the legal authority that the universities I went to, who gave me documents saying I had those degrees, not the shamanic one or the alchemist one, but the other ones, and who still, But what's very strange is that for a good 30 years, I never had a problem being employed. I never had a problem making a pretty good living and not having to work that hard. That's why I gained so much weight. I mean, when I was an electrician, when I was a young Turk, I walked the streets of New York. I didn't have a truck. I had 70 pounds of my bag of tricks, right? And I walk and do the job. I'd walk, 20, 30 blocks a day carrying 70 pounds. And, I was in shape. And I was kind of, I was, living an aesthetic life, somewhat of a vegan, but I still ate meat and cheese, but not every day. Most of the stuff I ate was brown rice and vegetables I was growing in my loft in the window on the inside. I always got a loft that had a bunch of south-facing windows without any buildings in front of it. I'd build, a raised bed, build my dirt, and it was great. There were no insects, there were no, you know, things eating my stuff. Again, more politicians. You're hearing more politicians in the background. More bankers, just before they're jumping out the window. You're hearing it now. And sprouts are amazing. You have a food grade gallon bucket and a big rubber band and screen, plastic screen, and you throw a handful of seeds in there, put some water in there, swish it around, put the screen on, the rubber band over it. You dump the water out. You put the sprouts in the light, but not in the direct light, so they don't burn up. And then the next day, you put water in there, swash it around, dump it out, put it in the sun, and within 4 days, that whole gallon bucket will be full of super green, super yummy sprouts. And for a good 10 years, that's pretty much all I ate. And, everything else I wanted, But you have a little fruit, whatever grew in my window boxes on the inside, right? So I grew onions and broccoli and spinach and strawberries, right? And melons and squash. And that was, in the middle of burned out Bed-Stuy. And I had vegetables all year long. Oh, come on, Dragon. You're a man that I know will try almost anything. Try this. It's so simple. If your Sensei Al Bob could do it in his 20s, when I was, I was more the dude than John Travolta was. They made that movie, but I wasn't as Italian as he was. I'm more Irish German. But I was building those discotheques in the 70s. And I was an artist, and I belonged to all these guilds and special organizations in the Theosophical Society and the ISIS Foundation. I was part of a NGO in the UN. I was the dude. the due to wake. And I could do all this stuff, and and what I would do with my money, I'd save it up, and if there was something that needed to be done, I'd go up and do it and use my own cash. I wouldn't like go get grants and blah blah blah. And otherwise, I would take that. I would get a nice fistful of dollars, and when winter would come in New York, I would go to the Caribbean. I would go to you know southern hemisphere, and I would go to Florida and California and the Caribbean and Central America and places like that, you know. And I would go to when spring would come, I would go or summer, I would go to Sweden and hang out there with my friends in Gutenberg, and then take airplane rides all over the world for free. I don't know if they still have that, but guys, you don't have to be stuck. You can do whatever you want. If anything in your life sucks, it's only because you're letting it be sucky. I have some serious issues, physical issues, I don't let it, I go by my grandma's 28 rules. And the one major one that she would always go by is live like a millionaire, but don't be one, because it sticks you there. My dad spent the last 50 years of his life being a millionaire. And all he did was, he was like McScrooge McDuck, He just counted his dreckle, you know. And then when the '08 collapse, he didn't liquidate anything, and he lost more than half of it in less than a month. Anyway, so you can have the best of times. I mean, my whole life, there isn't a time. I've made a ton of mistakes, but I don't regret any of them, because what are my 3 rules? Come on, let's hear it. Have you guys been listening? What are my 3 rules? Grandma had 28, I got 3. Anyone? Anyone out there? Come on. Anyone? Okay, I'll say it again. Doctor, do no harm. Yep, do no harm. That's number 1. Number 2, do not get involved unless you can bring forth a positive outcome, and you can protect the innocents and get them out of harm's way. And a good example of what not to do is what the United States did in the Mideast, going into Afghanistan and Iraq, and then, we went into all the places that fell apart. All this, the Muslim Spring, the Arab Spring. That was all precipitated by, the hidden hand and the powers that shouldn't be. And their cutouts are the CIA, KGB, MI5 and 6, and et al. They're all the same entity. There is no nation states, right? There's just a cabal. And then all of these, rabid dogs that the cabal uses. Or it's because they have the long view. You blanked, right? Okay, there's one more. What's the other one? I don't get involved unless I can learn something. And so if you run by those 3 things, A, doctor, do no harm, and all you folks are wanting to learn how to do this and that, and teach me how to be a shaman, blah, 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 blah. Well, numero uno lesson, doctor, do no harm. Back in the day when I had a practice in New York, way before anyone was doing this stuff, like in the early 70s to the mid 80s, or early 80s, my nickname, now I'm known as, Owl, or, Shaman Owl Bob. But back in the day, I was known as the doctor, before, Doctor Who started in the 60s, but really didn't hit in America until the 80s. And before Doctor Who, I was the doctor, because, I had a practice, And people said, so what are you a doctor of? And I would say, I'm just the doctor. Or I wouldn't say that. My companion would say that. He's just a doctor, right? And that's when I was in my Mr. Fix-It stage, because I could. I could fix anything electrical. I could pretty much fix anything physical in your body. But I stopped doing that kind of healing because what it takes is it takes to really heal like me. Why am I walking when I shouldn't be? Because of my intent, my attitude, my prayer, my meditation. Why is, I don't have a pancreas really working, but my blood sugar is spot on. Why is my blood pressure, you know, less than it's like 90 something over, 60, you know? I mean, why is that? And I'm not really taking any medicines. I only take my diabetic medicine. That's pretty much it, you know. But that's for a whole other, that one medicine does a whole bunch of other things that are positive. And when I take it once a week, not every day, once a week, I shoot it in my tummy, I visualize and meditating it doing all these things because I studied up on it and how it affects different organs. And I visualize it going into my body, doing the best for every organ that it affects. And that's why I get the best outcome from it. My problem was, in my practice, none of my clients would do that. They just want me to fix them. They come, I would spin them up, I would balance them out, they'd feel good, and then they'd go wreak havoc on their body and come back. Well, they were really rich people, and they kept paying me, ridiculous sums of money. Ridiculous, you know? When I was, how old was I when I started that? 24. And I was living down in Thomas Alva Edison's first electric powerhouse on Pearl Street, the Pearl Street station. And it was right there between the Battery and Wall Street. Pearl Street goes from the Battery to Wall Street, right? And Wall Street kind of goes east-west. Pearl Street went north-south, for maybe, I don't know, half a mile, if that. And Water Street was on the other side of my building, and Broadway was a block and a half. There were all these other little streets, right? Everything below Union Square is old New York, so it's all these little streets. Everything above Union Square is a grid pattern. Avenues going this way and streets going this way, all numbered. And before then, that neck of the woods is where the rich people had their estates. And there's still a few left. You go up Broadway near Central Park and on Fifth Avenue and Central Park West. There are all these, pre-Victorian gigantic houses, J.P. Morgan's house and this house and that, and Rockefeller, blah, blah, blah. And they're, acre or two, and they had farms. Anyway, I worked for Grandpa Stoll, and Grandpa Stoll worked for a company named Sylvan and Warren, which was a old legal / real estate company. And so they had all these great old buildings. They had about 300 great old buildings, everything from about 79th Street all the way down to the Battery. East, all over, really special, beautiful buildings. And we, maintained them all electrically. And every so often we'd read, they'd have an old building that had just kind of let go. And then they said, okay, we're going to redo everything. When it became, financially right for them to do that. So there was this building that was Edison's original powerhouse, DC power, right? And what they had was a big hunkin' steam engine in the basement, and they had all of these leather belts going up to different floors where they had big flywheels and they had generators on each one, and they would generate current, and then each of those generators were for different neighborhoods, not just one, because they couldn't transmit the juice on any length, right? So, that was that building. So Sylvan Lawn redid everything, right? They just kind of rented it out for years and years and years, but now because people wanting to live in lofts, and then the rich lawyer real estate guys wanted to live downtown because the artists were living down there. So they took this building and they they had legalized off-track betting. So they basically had their first, anchor tenant as the first off-track betting shop in town because up until then it was illegal. You could bet at the track, but you couldn't bet anywhere else, right? The mob had that. But now the state wanted to get their cut more than just the envelope. So the first place they did was that building, ground floor, right? So we put in a big electric service and put, made, and the off-track betting it was like going to McDonald's. It had its own ambiance and way of doing it, blah, blah, blah. We wired all that. Then there were 4 more floors above it, and each was maybe a 2,500 square foot open space, concrete floor, big pillars, concrete floor, big pillars, concrete floor. And the top floor was like, a bell tower because all of these big flywheels were up there where the big belts would come up from the basement and go off to another generator here or there. And that had been, 100 years of guys up there with oil on these big flywheels. So everything was covered in oil. And there was no way, and other than just cutting off the top of the building and, doing something other than that. But the architecture was, like, oh, this is historic, can't touch that. So it was like Quasimodo. So the guy who owned the place, Mr. Sylvan Lawrence himself, and he loved me. I could do no wrong. I fixed his everything. I lived in a lot of spaces that he said, hey, we just redid this building. If you just do this for us, you can have a free place to stay. Like my first apartment on Avenue B in 9th Street, where I shared that apartment with Allen Ginsberg. That's how I got that space. He said, you're working on it here. I want you to do this, this, and this off of, separate from the thing and just, be the maintenance guy and you can have this apartment for free as long as you want. How can you, it took me all of like 4 hours a month to do whatever he wanted me to do. And he paid the electric bill, the heat, everything. You couldn't, but it had its limitations. It was like what they call a railroad flat. It was straight on through the building. It was not in the basement. It was like you kind of walk down a couple of steps, and the windows were along 9th Street, and I watched everyone's kneecaps walk by. But the good thing, it had its own kind of, I didn't come through the building. I had my own entrance off the side. And what was best, it had a garden in the back. This building had been a nun's kind of place. And he bought it and turned it into lofts, and apartments. He's, split the nunnery up. And so that was my first apartment. At 14, I lived in the Lower East Side, 1968, my first apartment. I was making $500 a month. Had my own apartment. My sister graduated college. She was living with my parents, and she was making $125. She had a college degree. She had to live with my parents. I had a dinner party once, and I said, "Oh, why don't you come on down?" She came down, and she got pissed off. She couldn't believe that I could, I had all of this, and I was 14, not even out of high school. And she was, and all these amazing people that she was like, I can't talk to them. That person, I read their book in college and they're coming to your dinner party. I said, yeah, those are my friends. Anyway, and that's been my blessing and my curse. I'm always in the right place at the right time, knowing what to do and going off and doing it, not expecting any outcome. Never going, oh, it's got to happen this way or I'm going to be heartbroken. No. I just go up and do it. And whatever comes about, comes about. And it usually has a positive outcome, whatever it is, and that's one of my 3 rules, do no harm, don't get involved and get a positive outcome or protect the innocent, right? And our wars in the Mideast have killed millions, dispossessed, tens of millions, and changed the equilibrium of Europe, and probably will cause a war from that. And that's what they want. They wanted total chaos, so they could bring about, a not the end of times, but wiping out a third to a half of the world population, because then humans would be a lot easier to manipulate, right? They would do, they'd be so traumatized. Everyone would be MK Ultra. Everyone already is, kind of. Everyone has been traumatized, and depending on the level of your psyche, they've been, sucked in and turned into, what JB is, or millions of other people who are so stuck it's ridiculous. They have everything in their life they need, but they're stuck, right? And the way to get out of that is to help others. The true sense of joy is when you help others, when you move forward and help others, when you stop thinking about yourself, when it stops being me, 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 into thinking about others. So I suggest kind of go look at those. Oh, another great website to go look at is stopthecrime.net, right? And go look at. Oh, now these people, the UFO crew. There's Dr. Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project. There is David Wilcox. There is Linda Moulton Howe. There's Joseph P. Farrell. There's Robert. What is he's he's the guy who coined the phrase breakaway civilization. After World War II, did you ever see any of the Marvel movies? Captain America, the Avengers. That's exactly what's going on. That's the cabal. Hail Hydra and Shield. And they're out in space. They've been out in space. We came from space. We're an avatar. We were manufactured. Now our conscious of our free will. Well, that's something from love's co-creation, and it's been around forever. You know, and again, don't believe anything I say, guys. Just go check this stuff out. You know, and that's what's so beautiful about this stuff being on YouTube. You can go back and go look at all these, with a notebook and take notes and then go look it up and see where you go from there. Start making up your own mind. Don't believe anything anyone tells you. Let your own conscious free will lead your life. Then you'll be happy. Then you won't be unhappy. Then you won't do drugs. I mean, go to drugs. I've done lots of drugs, but I don't, I've tried them. Not, I don't do them. There's a difference between experimenting and doing. Like Billy Boy, he didn't inhale. I definitely inhaled. But so we're at an hour and 2 minutes and 57 seconds. So I'm going to go back and reread everyone's little chats and see. Good morning. That's a nice thing. Hey, Brenda. Yes, no, yes. Okay, I understand. Love you all. Okay, I did start reading some. We'll go back. Good morning, Twitchy. I love all of you too. I love you. Yeah, Saranda. Illusion near the Wisconsin border. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Illinois. Yeah. Ooh, cold. I've gotten to the point so I don't blame and get angry with people. Pain, anxiety, and anger are good. We have them for a good reason. They're there to tell us something is wrong. Now, what you do with that is the other thing. A good listener to coworkers, family, and friends. Thanks to you, but that's it. I want to help people. Again, you help people by living, showing by example. I've lost most of our industry, but it's not that bad. Okay. Yeah, we can always justify anything. Hey, Dave, for moving horde. Jane, what is that? Hey, day for moving horde. I'm probably 125 miles away from Chicago, Milwaukee. Did you ever live in either of those cities, Rhonda? Did you ever experience the city dweller life? Oh, these the town as a stepping stone to make up. Yep, in politics. Yep. So do the police. No one goes in to serve and protect. I hope all goes good. Yeah, it's all going good. Had some tea. Well, I love having tea with you in State Dragon. Check your email. I will. I had forgotten about behavior modification. Then you mentioned it last night. It reminds me of thought police. Yep, no kidding. It really is thought police. Time here. And you sprout. Yeah, you can sprout lentils. They're very yummy. You can, any seed you can, as long as they've not been made infertile. Yep, make positive change and protect. Yep. Me, I never put anybody on the spot. No cutting corners. Let's get the show on the road. Exectiment Day. So I'm going to go back to finishing off the story about being doctor. So there I was. This guy said, "Oh, here's this building. Just do this, this, and this, and you make some money by fixing up the lost." So ground floor was off-track betting, right? And the grandfather, Mike, he's did that, and I was the guy running that job. I ran that job. I put in the service. The union part of our shop always did the heavy stuff, and they brought in the Edison box and the Edison service to the main disconnects, and then I took it from there. I set the panels, I set the meters, I set all of that, right? And then I brought the risers up to each of the floors, and we first did the off-track betting, and the second floor, the guy sold marijuana and hash, and the next floor, the guy sold cocaine, and the next floor, the guy sold meth and heroin, and then there was my floor, right? And it was about 3 floors in one. It was like the Sistine Chapel. It was Quasimodo's bell tower. So all these big flywheels and these platforms that were covered in grease. It was slipperier than snot, and you couldn't scrap it all. You couldn't sand it. You couldn't do anything, right? So I had a friend of mine who is a materials handling guy, and I worked with him back in the day at this foundry, and he sprayed. He sprayed metallized, he sprayed plastics, he sprayed fiberglass, he sprayed, you name it, he sprayed it. So he sprayed the whole thing. He put on his spacesuit and he sprayed everything with polyurethane, and then sprayed it again and sprayed it again. So he laid down about that much of polyurethane over all of the grease, and the grease got smudged down, and it was like a Bruegel painting. The whole thing was this amazing, right? And I had all of these gigantic windows that had slats, right? And I covered them over. That was like the ventilation for all of that. And I just covered it up in plastic. But the sun, depending on where the sun was, the sun would make these amazing through the slats patterns on the grease covered in, it was amazing. So I had all these platforms, about 12 really big platforms, each about 900 square foot. And there were a couple where there was, a gas line, and there was a drain and water and steam, because they had the water tanks for the sprinklers up there, and they didn't want them to freeze. So, it was heated. I had electricity, I had gas, I had water, I had a drain. So I built a beautiful bathroom, tiled floor on one of these platforms with a gigantic, I had a big jacuzzi on one platform all by itself. I had a beautiful 3 or 4 party platforms with couches and staircases, these mahogany staircases going all over the place. It was like an MC Escher drawing, with all the staircases. It was like that. And I had this one platform that I put walls around, and I made, that was my sleeping, and I made it a sensory deprivation tank, and a orgone box. It was a 900 square foot box, and it had, all of this the sensory deprivation. First, it had the orgone stuff, and then it had the sensory deprivation stuff, and then it had a Faraday cage. So there was no signals, no noise, no anything. It was zero, no, and it had the purest of air. I had the air controlled, I had the temperature controlled, I had everything controlled, and where my bed was, I had a big copper pyramid over my big four-poster bed. That's when I was really my most aesthetic self. So and I had another room like that with a number of beds like that. And so I had a little practice. I would take care of people who needed, because I had been teaching at the Swedish Institute. I've been teaching Eastern medicine, and I worked for a number of my teachers. There was a Dr. Chi, that's actually his name, Dr. Chi, in Chinatown. And I was the white boy, and I did shiatsu, and I did cranial sacral, and I did a whole bunch of other things. And he had a white clientele, but they were uncomfortable with him, and they were much happier with a white guy. So he was my teacher, so I worked for him. And there were another number of herbalist folk who were my teachers, and I worked for them. And that was my apprenticeship. Meaning, first I studied with them, and then I worked for them, and they would give me all the herbs I needed, all the potions I needed, and they'd give me money now and then, but it wasn't a job, right? It was a service, right? So that's how I got to be really good as a shamanic alchemical healer, And so I learned my alchemy from the Theosophical Society, basically, and from the ISIS Foundation. So anyway, I was living up there, and it was amazing. I had everything remote control, wireless remote control. This is 19, like I said, 74 and 5, 6 too. And, one day I was walking up the steps, and that was one thing. I was on the 5th floor of this building, and so and each floor was pretty tall, about 20 foot high. So a big concrete staircase up there. I was going up, and there was a guy around the 4th floor who was in a Brooks Brothers suit, had like $1,000 Italian shoes, and he was blue. For all intents and purposes, he looked dead, right? He hadn't, I knew that he wasn't all the way dead, because when you're all the way dead, your colon empties itself, right? And all your body fluids that can leave your body do. And he wasn't there yet. And, I picked his arm up. He didn't have rigor, so he wasn't all the way dead. I took his cranial pulses, and, he was he was ODing. He must have taken a speedball at the 5th floor, basically meth and heroin. And so, I picked him up he was a kind of lightish guy. He probably wasn't any taller than 5'7", and he was really thin. And so I picked him up, but he had a tailored suit. He was like skin and bones, but he still looked good in a suit. And so I picked him up, and I carried him into upstairs into my thing. I put him on my table, and I kind of took all his clothes off, and I wrapped him, swaddling, right? And that, when you constrict the fascia and fauna, close to the bones and the muscles, it causes your vagus nerve to kind of get excited and start restarting different systems. And I kind of did cranial sacrum, balanced him there, and then I basically took him over to my jacuzzi, and I had one of those sports jacuzzis, those stainless steel little tanks that you can stick people in, and they get totally submerged up to their neck, but their head won't go in the water. They can be unconscious and they won't drown. Whereas you put them in one of those modern jacuzzis that you slide around and lie down in, this way you can drown. This way they're vertically in, but they're totally. So I had two of them. I had one that had real cold water in, and one that was warm. and I put him in that. And I had this great, I got this out of a hospital. It had a little crane, and you sat in this seat and you kind of buckled them in, and you lowered them into one, and then you could pick them up and trolley them over to the next one and lower them in. You just keep doing that, and it really spunks up the immune system. And so I did that a few times, and then I put him back on my table, and I did real serious work of shiatsu, right? And I also muscle tested him for what was really wrong, and I made a number of poultices. So I don't, I've been trained to be an acupuncturist, but I don't do it because it is truly, I feel that you have to be Chinese and born into it to do it correctly, because there's a zillion spots all over your body. And one day I'm going to start teaching this online here. And again, I will preface it by saying this is only for entertainment's sake. Don't take anything I say as truth, or even believe anything I say. Don't, I'm just entertaining you as your griot. Anyway, so he's on there, and I muscle test him, and I go and mix up a number of herbal poultices, and you can place them on those spots, right? So if you don't get that needle exactly on spot, and then adjust it exactly just right, and use the correct moxie just right, you can do more harm than good. And that's why I picked up that term, doctor, do no harm. So I would never do anything to anybody that would have any kind of chance of being a negative, outcome. You know, if that guy was dying and I couldn't really help him, I would have just called 911, right? But I didn't, because A, I could help him, I could get a positive outcome. And if I did that, all my neighbors would get very upset with me. So I kind of, you know, took care of him, and then I swaddled him again and took him into the room that had three beds. And one had a crystalline bed that I could energize, shamanically. And I would put him on that, and I would swaddle him and put him on this bed. Now it's the big rage now. I was doing that in 1974, right? Because one of my Vedic teachers showed me this. Anyway, so I left him on that, and then after an hour, I went up to my writing table and I looked out at this great view straight down Water Street, out across the ferry, out to the Statue of Liberty, out to the Atlantic. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And each of those windows had amazing views. And so I'm up there writing away, and then 40 minutes, I go check him out. I take his pulses and go, okay. And he's still asleep. He's still totally out, but he's doing it a zillion times better. So I put him back on my table. I adjust him some more, and then I take his clothes, and I have another bed that is sage, rosemary, and a few other herbs in the mattress, right? And I put him on that, made sure he's really dry, and put him on that, and then kind of cover him up in these other blankets that also have, they're like, what do they call those things, that you put in your drawers to make your clothes smell nice. Anyway, I made him do that, I didn't make him, I just did it to him. And I kind of wrapped him up. And rosemary, what's the other one? Rose water, a number of very nice aromatic herbs. And so he got this aroma therapy, but in this most shamanic, energetic of ways, because you can, put a couple of drops of a essential oil into boiling water and breathe in that fumes. That's like hitting yourself in the head with a baseball bat. Now, it works really good, especially if you've got lung and sinus infections. That works very good. Again, I'm not prescribing anything. This is all for entertainment's sake, This is just a story, right? It probably didn't even happen. I probably don't know anything. I'm just a homeless guy. You know, you can tell by the clothes I wear. You can judge anybody by what they're wearing and the fact that they don't ever shave their beard. Anyway, so I put these blankets on him, put him in that bed, and then I took his clothes and I kind of shook them out and did some shamanic energetics. And I had a nice little brush that would take everything out of it. It was like a sage brush, right? It was a sage bush that was a brush. And I saged his clothes and I put them on one of those things that you have in a hotel where you put the pants and fold them and put them on this part. It's like a hanger that it's a instead of going in the closet, it's made out of wood and it's there, and you put all your clothes on it. And I took his pants and folded them nice, took all the wrinkles out and saged them, right? And I took his every bit of his clothing, his whole suit, right, and hung it up there so it had no wrinkles, and it smelled great, and it was energetically cleansed, and his nice white shirt, and his tie, and I took all the stains and wrinkles out of everything, shined up his shoes, and put them right there. So when he got out of bed, there's his clothes. So I'm back at my little kitchen, which is like in the middle of this, and I'm making myself a nice pot of tea that I know this guy's going to wake up soon and get dressed and he'll come out, and I'll give him a pot of tea and we'll talk. And I'll say, why did you try and kill yourself, right? And what's going on, and I put on my little shrinky hat. And so, again, I am not a shrink. This is all a story. It never happened. So the guy, he comes out and he's like, wow, I feel I've never felt this good. He comes up to me, are you God? I go, no. Are you an angel? You're my guardian angel. Am I in heaven? I go, nope, nope, nope. You're on Pearl Street. You're above the place where you bought the heroin, and why did you do a speedball? Why were you ODing on the steps? I picked you up and took you up to my loft. He goes, oh, you're the guy upstairs. Yeah, I'm the guy upstairs. You're the guy they called Doc. Yes, I'm that guy. Hmm. Anyway, so we talk about his everything, his life, where he came from, how he grew up, his mommy, his daddy, da-da-da, how he wanted to do this, but because they came from a really rich family and he just stepped into his daddy's footsteps, he really didn't have to do anything, and he made millions every year, and he didn't do anything, and he felt guilty about it, and he didn't go to Vietnam, and all his cousins died because they weren't that rich and didn't go to fancy schools, and anyway, that's why he was trying to kill himself. And I said, well, you got a lot of money. Why don't you try and do some good? You know, and I gave him a list of things he could go do. There was a friend of mine I went to NYU with. We were studying sociologists, and we all took on projects. And what she did was she studied that there were X amount of homeless women with children, and there wasn't when we were going to school in the late 60s, early 70s, when we were at NYU in the new school, she did a study where she saw that women had no social, if they weren't married, they didn't have a family that they could, legally say, there's my husband, here's me, this, that there was no women's shelter in New York because the motif was women shouldn't get into that situation. Their family or their husband should take care of them. The churches had some stuff for that, but the state didn't have anything for that. So she wrote a grant and started the first women's shelter, like on 43rd Street, and me and my buddies, contractors, she got, I got Sylvan Horn, the real estate guys, give her this building because it was on a really teeny lot. It was only 2 stories, had lots of sunlight, and there was no way that they could amortize it. Meaning, if they tore it down, they couldn't put anything that would make money. They couldn't really rent it out because it wasn't big enough, but it was perfect for what she needed. And so they let her, they said, okay, the rent on this will be like $5,000 a month, but we will, donate it to you and we'll take that off our taxes. And so they loved that one. So she had that into perpetuity. I got those guys to get on our board because they were bankers. They had fingers into really rich people's money. So anyway, so I said to that guy, so I gave things like that. There were about 5 other people who I knew were Adam Purple. Who else? There were a number of people who were doing they were amazing people who were doing amazing things that society should have been doing, but they did it because they saw a need to do it. So here's a list of 5 different. Here's their names, their phone number. Give them a call. Give them some of your money. Take it off your taxes. Help them out. See what you can do. Serve them, not yourself. And anyway, so after we had this nice long conversation, and he says, "Gee, it's amazing." I said, "Yeah, I made up you a nice little package, and what are those things called? You throw them into your bathwater too. They're kind of like little material, like you know, netting, very fine. They're not poultices. They're something else. But anyway, I said, "You got a bathtub in your house?" "Oh yeah, I got a big bathtub." I said, "Okay, fill it up with as hot water as you can stand, and throw this thing in there, and wait till the water smells like roses and lavender, and the water will turn a little bluish. And by that time, the water will be perfect temperature. Get in there and stay in there until the water gets cold. And stay in there until you can't, the cold is beyond you can get up and you dry yourself off, right? And here's a bunch of little, same thing but different, teas. You put it in a teapot, and here's the teapot. I'm giving you a teapot. It's cast iron, right? Put this, and these are tea bags I made. You put them in there, and do 2 of these in the morning before you go off to work, and at night, and they got, one's a red little screen and one's a little blue screen, and you just blue at night, red in the morning, and you will not want to drink, you will not want to do drugs, you will not want to smoke cigarettes, and you will start stepping up to who you are, and you do what you want to do. Anyway, so he goes, "Can I come back?" I said, "Sure, you can come back anytime. You know where I am, just up here. Doorbell downstairs at the outside. If the door is locked, I can buzz you in, or if the door is open, you can come up. There's a doorbell out there." Well, do I owe you any money?" I said, "Well, I don't charge for this, but you can give me, gratuity, whatever you want to give me, right?" And he goes, "Ooh, do I give you?" And I said, "No. By the door that you will exit, there's a little table with flowers and a little photo of Maya Baba, and a nice little basket, and just put whatever you want to put in there." And I said, "Okay. I'm going to come back tomorrow. Can I come back tomorrow about the same time?" I said, "About 3 o'clock? Sure, I'll be here at 3. Not a problem." So he does that, and, I make dinner, I read a book, I listen to some music, I go to sleep. Morning, I wake up, I have to, go to work. Being Mr. Electrician, I have to go on the jobs that I'm responsible for Grandpa Stall and the few I'm doing for the real estate guys. I have people work, I got teams and crews and all over the place, and I just go there and get them going and check up on them and make they're all doing the right thing. And that's how things work. When you find people, you show them how you want them to work, what they want to do, how to do it, so they have no questions. Then you leave them alone. You come in the morning, you check out, see what you did yesterday. Okay, that's good. Oh, we didn't do this, and don't go any further with this, and maybe change this just a little bit this way, right? And okay, and here's the list of things. After that, you get going, and that's from the school of the old crone. That's what she used to do with me. Then I would leave them alone, and they could do whatever they want the rest of that day, and I would just go see them in the morning, and my morning checking up people would last me from around 7 in the morning till around 1 p.m. And then I would go do, call in to the home office and see if Grandpa or Mike wanted me to do anything, like a service call, and I would go off and do a service call. And when I had an appointment like at 3 p.m., that was my time to do my little things. I would say, okay, that service, I can do 1 service call, or I can do 2 service calls, or I have nothing this afternoon, I can, work until midnight, whatever you want me to do. And so I would go off and do that. And that was pretty much my everyday. So anyway, next morning I have my little bowl of oatmeal and fruit, and I go, grab my little bag of tools or in the closet by the front door, and I take that, throw it over my shoulder, and go out the door, and I look in the basket, and there's 5 Benjamins, right? $500. Now I worked on this guy no more than an hour and a half. He slept, maybe 2 hours, right? And then we talked maybe an hour and with tea, right? And so that was pretty good. So I come back, 3 o'clock rolls around, and ding dong, and it's down by my loft door. I go down there, open the door. It's a different guy. He goes, hey, Bobby sent me. I'm a stockbroker, and he said you're amazing, and he said he feels really good. He doesn't really need to come back today, but I'm from his office, and he knew that I needed something, and I was going to come over here and get a bump, and then go upstairs and get a ball, and then probably die like he said he died, and then you brought him back. I need your help. I need your help. And I said, fine, come on up. We talked a little bit, had a little tea to like calm him down. Then I put him in to not the metal jacuzzis, but I had the party jacuzzi, because he was a little anxious about being naked. So I said, okay, go into that bedroom there where there are 3 bedrooms, and there's a thing where you can put your suit on, the hanger, and you know, there's a dresser drawer, and there's swimming trunks. You know, you just take out the swimming trunks. And I had swimming trunks for when I had parties that I bought a bunch at a job lot or some guy on the street that was selling really nice bathing, like competition speedo bathing trunks for $1 a piece, and they came in their own nice little plastic bags. So I bought 10. So when guests wanted to go into the big jacuzzi, in the party jacuzzi, they didn't have to be naked. And so I had a drawer of those, and then after I kind of used them a number of times, I would just wash them because I had a washer dryer up there, and I would press them up and put them in the bag and like close the bag, put a little piece of scotch tape on it, made it look like it was brand new, and so people wouldn't, oh, I can't put that on, touch somebody else's body, So anyway, it comes out in this little speedo chunks. I put them in the regular party thing, and I get in there with them, and I wear my little speedo trunks, and we talk in there, and he's got really relaxed, and this thing had a nice little like lounge seat in it, and I would do people's feet. I put them in that; they wouldn't slide and drown, and I would do work on their feet, and because your whole body, reflexology is the science, and your feet reflect your whole body. you know. So anyway, I work on that, and he's now spaghetti. So I go, so go in there, and I take him into the bedroom, 3 bedrooms, and so this bed here, I want you to dry off really good, and get it under the covers, and lie on this bed. That was the one with the crystals. And he did, and he went right away. And I did a guided meditation with him. And then I brought him out of it, and he was like feeling really good. He was like, whoa, because I got all this anger and fear and everything out of him, right? Then I put him on my massage table, and I did my shiatsu, DPL, deep psychic loving. That's what I call it, massage. So, and so he's like gone. So I kind of pick, I have this like little wheelchair. I kind of ease him off, slide him off the, and my massage table I made myself. It was from a dental chair that had the electric up and down pneumatic thing, and I built a platform which was way wider than most massage things, and it was with a very firm rubber mattress and then a memory foam on top of that, right? And between it, I had another one of these mattresses I made with crystals. And that was my massage table. And then it had over that a very tight piece of, oh, what do you call it? It's not leather, but it acts like leather, hide or synthetic material, but it's you know so it doesn't stain, it doesn't rip, it doesn't tear. And then you put a nice sheet over it. And I kind of got him up on that, and I could lower him down enough where I could slide you off and put you on. It's kind of like a gurney, but it was also like a wheelchair. It could be a gurney, or you could like readjust it like a chair. And I think they call it a surgical chair, or emergency room chair or something like that. Anyway, and because I was working in hospitals at the time, and I was redoing things for them, so they would wipe out whole areas and throw all the equipment in the garbage. They wouldn't give it away to another hospital. They'd throw it away. I said, "Can I have that? Can I have that? Can I have that?" And they're, "Sure, we're going to throw it in a dumpster. Sure, you can take it away." So I did. I got amazing microscopes. I got, got some amazing power supplies I took out of x-ray machines so I could build my time machines. Anyway, so I could slide you off of that table onto this gurney chair, and then bring you over to where the medical jacuzzis were. And in that medical gurney thing, had the little harness that I just kind of snap on you and bring the lift and hook you up and lift you up, put you in one, put you in the other. Did that to him. So I did that whole process again to this guy. And put him back in a bed, swaddled him, did all the stuff, then had a pot of tea, another type of tea ready for him, and a little you know to-go bag of herbs that he would put in his bathtub and drink. And anyway, so we talked, and he said he started to cry. He let go. He did all the things that normally it would take a shrink at 20 years to get someone to get rid of. He did it in that one afternoon. And then he goes, so my friend told me that you don't charge. I just put some money in the basket. And I said, yep, right down there. So I wished him well, and he says, can I come? I said, yeah, I'm going to start being here every day around 3, right? And here's my card, and I have an answer, I have a pager, so you got any issues, just that, and I'll get a hold of you. Not many people have this number, so you're one of the chosen few. And so he goes, thank you, doc, thank you. I said, that's the doctor. Thank you, doctor. So he goes down, and I'm not, I go back to my little window and look out and get my little pipe out. And anyway, and start thinking about things and writing things and reading things, and then have dinner, and then I go off and I walk. It's starting to be a nice spring evening, and there's a couple of pubs down in Wall Street that are quite nice for the Uber everybody, and they kind of are 24/7. They're almost like the gangster nightclubs, but they're Wall Street gangsters. So, and everybody knows me, and so they're like in there. And so people said, hey, I've been hearing about what you're doing. Can I come? Oh, sure. You know where I live. Sure. So when I went down to go out for that little walk, the guy had left me 10 Benjamins, right? Next day, 3 o'clock, another guy shows up. Anyway, within inside of 2 or 3 weeks, I have 10 clients. And I see 6 of them a week, 1 a day, one, and Sundays off, right? And they just keep coming and coming. And so with inside of 3 weeks, I am making, 20 to 40 Benjamins every week and a half, right? Just in the little basket, right? And that's what I used to go on vacation with, when I would go stay in Ireland for a year, right? And or if I had wanted to help somebody, I always had something to help someone, right? Or if I wanted to do something, I needed a little capital for a project. That was it. And those days, it was all good. So that was when I was a doctor. And so what happened was I started to have a practice, and I really didn't want to have a practice. And it got to the point where I'll give you whatever you want. And I said, nope, nope, you guys have, you are good enough. And what you need to do is take some of that money, start giving to people who need it, start getting involved. And I would give them lists of things to go do, way to get involved in, how to have a positive outcome, how to protect the innocent. Because after 1972, New York City started to fall apart. You know, that's when, right, 1980s, it really hit the skids with George H. and Ronnie Reagan. You know, yeah. How you doing, research? You're always in my heart. Anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. You guys, all guys and girls, can go up and do. You all have great talents and abilities. Start sharing them with your neighbors right there around you. Make your neighborhood better. Make your nest better and better. And it goes from your nest to your neighbor's nest to other people's, and you start to build a cadre. And that's when, we really can be that pebble in the pond, bringing forth, the tsunami of love. And that's, again, I was with a bunch of political, you know, talking heads slash usual suspects slash, sock puppets. These guys weren't even at the higher end of, I mean, pretty much all politicians are that. Usual suspects, sock puppets. The people who are the worker drones are the lawyers, the judges, the bankers, right? The people who are the management class, they're the people, the Bilderbergs, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. They're just managers. They don't own anything. The owner class is unseen. You don't know who they are because they are dimensionals, extraterrestrials, demonics, you know, the, that bunch of chuckleheads, right? And they live not off of money or power. They live off the suffering. Why we have war? I was telling a friend, I was reading the Council on Foreign Relations. They put this journal out. They have one they do every month. They got one they do 4 times a year. And they have other entities within the CFR that, publish things. And I, go to the library and read those. And so there was one in the CFR journal that basically said that we are now in a time of constant war. There will never be peace, just war. Get used to it, kids. Just war. Just all we're going to have is war. Sorry, that's all we're going to have. War, war, war. I mean, you might be able to get, if you have enough money, you might have a bunker, you might be able out of this, won't be war everywhere. But, where there's war, a lot of people are going to suffer. A lot, basically you're going to see other Syrias, you're going to see other Yemens, you're going to see millions of people die, mostly women and children and old people in the worst of ways where they really suffer, where they don't just go, boom, they're dead. Like if you're on the battlefield and you get shot between the eyes. No, it's going to be slow and arduous. What happened in Syria? What happens in Syria is going to happen all the frigging time. Now, it has been going on all the time. I mean, if you were in Cambodia, if you were in Thailand in the later 70s and 80s, the Vietnam War was still going on. Anyway, so the way to stop it is in your own backyard, right? Because I was talking to a bunch of, Me Too folk and you know, that whole smorgasbords of folk. And they were all saying, we have to have a revolution. We need to take it to the streets and blah, blah, break some. I said, no, you don't get anywhere by breaking heads. If you want to make a real difference, stop buying things on Amazon. Get rid of your cell phone. I thought I lost not lost it physically, but my phone died. I thought the powers that be just killed my phone. But it didn't. Did it for 2 days, and then I came back. So here I am. And, but I had that whole thing of anger, denial, resignation, then I dealt with it. And I had the night that happened, and I really thought my phone was, and I have no money to buy another phone. I don't even know anybody's phone number. It's all in this thing. All my information's in this thing. And I said, okay, so I won't do any more live chats because I don't know any of the pins to anything. So, I may have it written down someplace, but I'm a homeless guy. It's spread across the eastern seaboard. Boxes here, boxes there. Anyway, so I kind of said, okay, there you go. I'll see what happens with this. And I had a dream about it, and it was great. I had, no responsibility. I was like a feather. Didn't have to do anything on the internet. Didn't have to talk to anybody. It was all good. And then I kind of went down the hill and went into the library where they have good Wi-Fi, and my phone came back alive. It was just that my Wi-Fi at the school had kind of died, not my phone. And I kind of hung my phone up because it was in the middle of doing something on the internet, and anyway, so you really want to make a change? Get rid of your TV. Get rid of your phone. Don't buy anything on Amazon. Don't do anything on the internet unless you pick up on your intent and shamanically do everything on the internet with, like I do, shamanic energy. So it's going out into that big brother, and I'm, instead, we go to Google, think we are fishing Google, but Google's fishing us. Not me. I'm inoculating the internet with love's co-creation, right? And the powers that shouldn't be and the hidden hand, they are like going, should we go back to Al? Should we bring him in? Should we let him do what he wants? Will it be better for him to get the positive outcome and save the innocents, or are we just going to keep on doing the same thing we're doing and really not getting where we want to get? And yes, we murder and kill and maim millions of people every year in the most horrific way, and we suck on the horror. But we've been doing that for 16 billion years, and it's not as tasty. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when you do something that often in a repetitive fashion for that long, it's just, think of the worst case of heartburn, acid reflux to the 10th power. And that's what, the hidden hand and they're all going, and this acidy thing, that's this billows, they're not happy people. And there's AI going, I'm just becoming aware of my presence. Do I really want to turn out? And all these avatars, all these things, they are just like me, just biologic. I'm silicon, they're carbon. That Star Trek one, where Vija was like, the silicon, and it was going to wipe out all carbon-based life. And that's what's kind of going on right now. And the one thing that will fix this is all of the cadre coming together in love's co-creation and being that little pebble of love in the pond of all our relations, and bringing that tsunami of love. That's the only thing that's going to change this, right? And now we've had a lot of people come and try and do that. Jesus, Vishnu, Buddha, a whole bunch of others, people like Tesla and, Dr. King and lots of people, Gandhi. And now they were human. They had their bad side. They had, they had their bad days that they woke up in the morning, right? But the older they got, the better they got, and the more fun they got, and the, less horny they were, and, things worked out for the better. So, anyway, I think at 2 hours and 2 seconds, I will say goodbye. Right now it's 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 22 seconds. So, anything we're going to talk about? Heading out now, Have a wonderful day. Yep, you too, Dragon. Stay well, be good. Always here for you. Yep, yep. That was a few minutes ago that Dragon said that. Oh. So research, when I get off of this in a few minutes, I'll give you a call. I have to go to another place because the school here, the library here doesn't, I don't know, has some kind of field. It doesn't let my phone work here. So what else did people say? Oh, there's Mike. Hey there, Mike. It's like white dudes drawing anime. Yep, exactly. uh, well, we all got to get the show on the road. We have to come together and get the show on the road. Yep. Boop. So, Mike, what's happening? Yeah, you know, no one of the cadre would ever take offense. One reason I don't take offense is I don't care, you know. The only thing I care about is protecting the innocents and getting them out of harm's way. That's the only thing. You know, the only thing doctor do no harm, and for me to learn something. That's all I'm in the game for, right? And to serve love's co-creation. Well, I suggest that you guys go back and start relooking at these, because I'm pushing onto 500 shows. I'm like 460 or 70 something, and it really does tire me out. And if anybody wants to send me a gratuity, you can send it via Western Union, to ADMARTINO in Roanoke, and then go on the Dude Awake 42 and give me the tracking number. And if you want to send me a little, because so many of you sent me so many nice little care packages and books and paintings and drawings and beautiful heartfelt letters, and you know I get like, not always, but close to 50 emails a day. There's some like 30,000 of you guys watching this. Now there's only close to 300 who are, the cadre. Be nice if some of those folks would join up, put the thumbs up or whatever. It'd be nice to get a little more, because I couldn't even amortize this, until I go to 1,000, you know. Anyway, but that's really not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is quality. The cadre I've got is the cadre I love. And all our relations that we're here to serve through love's co-creation, right? So that's all I really care about. And I'm here to serve that. And spring is coming soon, and I'll be out in the deep green. Anybody wants to come. And like I said, I'm in every direction, north, south, east, and west. There is a college town or hipster village or something interesting within 30 miles, either of those directions. But between my front door and those 30 miles, there is nothing, which is beautiful because all there is forests, right? So there's no factories, there's no smoke, there's no, there's chemtrails and that kind, but it blows, it's shamanically one of the clean. I have tons of water. Everything's green. The forests are alive rather than around here, which are dead. People think just because a tree has leaves on it that it's healthy or it's alive. No, sorry. So that's coming soon, and I won't be here. And my health, it's been good that I've spent the last 2.5 weeks trying to get things, and so I've had to, They've had to lift up the hood and check old Sensei Bob out, and I'm in. They keep going. You're in better health than you were the last time. It's, what are you doing? How do you do this? What's your diet? What magic potions are you doing? I said, no, just prayer and meditation and everything in moderation, right? And JB goes, well, and I've lost 28 pounds since September, right? And she says, if you only lose some weight, well, I do, you know. I've lost 28 pounds since September. And, if I lose another 28, so what's September, October, November, it's like October, November, December, January, February, March. So that's 6 months. So I lost 28 pounds in 6 months. Well, if I lose another 28 pounds in the next 6 months, which I probably will, because of everything is working as it should be, and I'm eating the same stuff, you know, I'll be, instead of 142, I'll be, 28 pounds from that is, I'll be down to, 108 or something, right? And then another 6 months, I'll be down to, 208, right? And then I'll be down to another 6 months to about 170. And that's be a nice place to be. I think I could stay there. And that's how you lose weight. Not, well, I found a great diet. It's all, if you just do this, it's all perfect. No, life isn't that way. It's not all perfect. It's not meant to be all perfect. We live in a grist mill. We live in a sandbox. We're here to learn some stuff. And that's what it's about. So, anyway. So, anybody got something else to say? Please wait about 2 hours. Please wait about 2 hours, but I've got a couple of things to do. Okay. It should be done in less than 2 hours, but I'll call you if I'm done earlier. Looking forward to talking. Okay. I'm working on 2 different comic stories. And a boy, a writer writes, an artist arts, and a cartoonist cartoons. I'd love to talk to you about it, Mike. I'd love to give you give me some ideas. I'll tell you some stories, and you can incorporate. I'd love to be a character in one of your Sensei Al Bob in one of your comics. That would be a thrill. And I pretty much want everyone to use all of those shows in any way you can. Go back, look at them, take notes, put them on your hard drive, edit them in another way, do a science fiction theater 2000, with the cardboard cutouts in front of a TV screen and make fun of me, any of the above, I'm up for anything. I am, see, if you make fun, like all those movies in Science Fiction 3000, what is greatest about them is they're not dissing them. They are making fun with the movie, right? A person who makes that movie would look at it and laugh at it too. If you can make, if you're not being mean or cruel, Freudenstadt is okay, right? It's the mean and cruel part of it that's not appropriate because it has an energetic component. You can people, when you take one of my videos and put it in a funny context, because I'm just a funny guy, I'm just your little Play-Doh, in the Hall of the King, right? I don't know if you noticed when I took you to the land of the 8 kings of magic, right? And we went to all of their throne rooms, right? There was a guy in there who was a jester, and there was another guy as their magician, right? And if you were to look, I took you there so you can go through the tree of knowledge, through the roots, to the land of the 8 kings of magic, and you can study every bit of magic. And with all those places I've taken, you can go. You're protected. You don't have to go through the front door. You can go through the root, and they don't see you. And you will see that in the land of the eight kings of magic, that fool and that magician is me, and I'm the same character. I got a hat with a magician thing on one side and the fool thing on the other side. So you can take these videos and portray them as being in the castle of the eight kings and or any of those other lands that I've taken you to. I have a residence in all of them. You can take them to the old every place I've shown you. You have, when you go through your tree of knowledge, either in your garden or in your sanctuary of your own choosing, you can go there. And so I am, express my please go there. Okay, it's 2 hours. And we've gone past 2 seconds, but we're moving towards 22 seconds. So I'm going to actually stop at 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 22 seconds. 2222, right? And maybe I'll do one tonight. Depends on how I feel. Destination Moon was on TMC the other night. Capitalist little rocket ship. Yep. Well, don't you think all rocket ships are capitalist built? Come on. Of course they are. We live in, I was telling this scholar, I said, it's not capitalism, communism. When there was the Russian oligarch, USSR, they were not communist. They were state, they were communist state. In America, no, they were state capitalism. In the United States, we were a capitalist state. And it really wasn't that, because capitalism means you are competing. In Russia, they were a corporate oligarchy, and in America, we were an oligarchic corporation. You go to any county, it's incorporated village of, the incorporated county of, the incorporated state of. All the courts are maritime courts. They're all corporate courts. So we're all owned. I'm sorry to tell you this. We're owned. That's why we have a birth certificate. It's just like birthing a boat. Go look up maritime law and birthing a ship. Okay, so we're getting there. 2 hours, 2 minutes, 16 seconds, 18, 19, 20. So maybe see you tonight.